Hey guys, so I just got back from the theater from seeing Elvis. The new movie about some random singer that nobody's ever heard of called Elvis Presley. I don't think anybody's ever heard of him. Um, yeah, it's been a crazy fucking day. It's been a crazy day. Um, I live in America. For anybody who's watching this internationally, I live in America, and it's been an interesting day, hasn't it? That's all I'm going to say about that because it's not a political channel, but it's been an interesting day. Unfortunately, it's not a good one. And a lot of people are not happy, and they have a good reason why not to be happy right now. But I was like, well, might as well end my day while watching the new Elvis movie. That's like 2.5 hours long. Why not? Um, this is a movie that I kind of was looking forward to, um, somewhat. Why I mean somewhat is because even though I'm not the biggest Elvis fan, I do appreciate his music. I wasn't looking forward to it in the aspect that it's being directed by Baz Luhrmann. Now a lot of people are going, "Who the fuck is Baz Luhrmann?" Baz Luhrmann is the guy who made the '90s version of Romeo and Juliet, which sucked. That one with Claire Danes and Leonardo DiCaprio. I fucking hate that movie. I hate it. Moulin Rouge, which I wasn't that big of a fan of, and Great Gatsby, which I remember not being that great either. So that was the last movie he did. So this is a guy who's like a style over substance kind of director, in my opinion. But he gets a lot of fucking praise. Like Moulin Rouge got Oscar nominations. It was nominated for Best Picture when it came out. So I mean, he has his fans. I'm not one of them, but I'm like, whatever. But I'm like, yeah, it's a movie about Elvis. I wasn't thrilled about the idea about it being 2 hours and 40 minutes. But I was like, yeah. But also at the same time, this is talking about a guy who had a pretty long ass career, so it's going to be hard to not cover it in a lengthy amount of time. And you know what? I actually really enjoyed the hell out of this movie. I really did. I actually enjoyed it. It is long. It is very long. But really, I was never bored. Never bored. It flew by. The time flew by pretty. It did drag on some parts here and there, but it did. Uh, I was invested enough in it that I hadn't was never bored and was never checking my clock like a million times. Um, I will just get the one part out of the way. Austin Butler, this kid that I've never seen in a movie before. Anybody who can tell me if I'm sure he's been in movies before. I just can't think of anything. I don't recognize him as an actor. And this is like, obviously, like they picked the guy who's kind of almost unknown to play Elvis. He did a fucking fantastic job. Obviously, this is like a performance I guarantee he's going to get an Oscar nomination. I'm sure this is going to get an Oscar nomination because probably for Best Picture because it's a movie about a famous musician. That usually is the way it goes with Oscars anymore. And he played one of the most famous musicians in American history. So yeah, he was really fucking good. Like I remember going into this thing going, well, he doesn't look like Elvis at all. It was very distracting watching the trailers. Like, but at the same time, it's like it's really hard to find a guy who does look like Elvis. So, but I don't always judge like actors' performances by whether they look like their counterparts or not. I usually just judge them by how they're able to portray them. If they can pull it off, like make me believe, like suspend disbelief that they are this person. This guy I had zero problem suspending disbelief. This guy was fucking great. He captured Elvis's presence, stage presence, his personality. He pulled it off really fucking well, to the point that I could have believed at any point I was watching fucking real footage of the real Elvis. Well, that was until you get like close-ups of his face, but he was fucking great. He pulled it off. He made this. He plays Elvis as a three-dimensional character. You see his arc throughout this movie, and like, you know, the trials and tribulations that he goes on for his life. You see, like, you know, he's a three-dimensional character in this movie. This whole movie also is, I give it props that it kind of went a little bit unconventional route, in that this movie is basically the story of, I mean, it could have focused on a million different things with Elvis, but it decided to focus on the relationship between Elvis and Tom Parker, played by fucking Tom Hanks, who honestly should get another Oscar nomination because this performance is one of his best. I fucking love this performance by Tom Hanks. Yeah, he's under prosthetics, and it gets a little noticeable and distracting, especially at the beginning of the movie. But he is really fucking good in this movie. He's really one of the most despicable, like, carny pieces of shit I've ever seen in my entire life. And like reading more about the real person, it pretty much sounds like he kind of was like what you saw in the movie. He was kind of not a very good person and kind of took advantage of Elvis. Well, really, actually did take advantage of Elvis and profited off of him. And it's pretty fucked up. Even after he died, he really fucking profited off of him. But Tom Hanks is great in this fucking role, and it was kind of cool to see him kind of play this sleazy dude. But you can kind of understand why him and Elvis have this good relationship, and like you can see why Elvis trusted him at points, you know. And he has this charm because he's Tom Hanks, for fuck's sake. I love that, even though I'll say this, like, I was bothered, you know, I was worried about Baz Luhrmann's style of filmmaking, and that, you know, he makes these very bright and colorful movies and very bombastic movies and over-the-top movies, which this movie was. It really did kind of fit the persona that is Elvis. If you're going to tell a story about Elvis, kind of telling the story of Elvis that is this way is probably one of the best ways to do it, because he was an over-the-top person and kind of like a very flamboyant, very rambunctious person, and that's the best way to he was a very, like I said, flamboyant person, and making a movie that's very colorful and very over the top and very bombastic makes sense as far as a biopic. One of my favorite fucking scenes in this movie is like that. Pretty much, like, this movie did kind of take a while for me to get into. From probably the first 20 minutes, I would say it took a while for me to get into, because I was like instantly reminded of why I don't like Baz Luhrmann, because it felt like at times it calmed down as the movie went on, but it did have moments of where it felt like a kid who was on a sugar rush was directing this movie, or on ADHD, and it was fucking annoying and giving me almost a headache. And it's very spastic and very random, some shit that would happen. Like, the movie opens, Tom Hanks is on his fucking deathbed and gets up and is like walking around casinos of Las Vegas while in a hospital gown. Yeah, that fucking happened. That's like the narration, the opening narration, and he's narrating this whole story. But really kind of scene that kind of got me, like, like, I was like, okay, this is kind of my movie now. It was the scene where Elvis first really performs in front of a crowd, and he's getting a lot of interest, and he performs in front of the crowd, and they're at first making fun of him, and then all of a sudden he starts slowly but surely swiveling his hips, And then the more he starts swelling the hips, girls start like they're orgasming, and like it's fucking hilarious. Like it's absurd and it's ridiculous, but having seen footage of Elvis, the real person, that was what was fucking going on. It's amazing. Like the presence this dude had, the power he had over the people, like in women especially. Jesus, uh, he could get them all riled up, and it's fucking funny watching this after having some of the arguments I've had on Facebook over the last 48 hours about how that was back then what parents were afraid their kids would be brainwashed by, is a guy swiveling his hips. Nowadays, it's stuff like gay people. It's like, wow, the more things change, the more things stay the same, pretty much. And like, I love that, like, this movie pretty much covers every fucking aspect of his career. Pretty much everything. I don't think it left anything out from, like, his military career for a brief. It don't cover that much. To his marriage and relationship with Priscilla, Lisa Marie being born. Even though Priscilla's not in the movie a whole shitload, she is given, quite a few scenes and quite a bit of it. She's not a main focus. Like I said, it is Tom Parker, his relationship with Tom Parker, that's the main relationship in the movie. But she is given, like, she has a really great scene, like, towards the end of the movie. It's the last scene with Elvis. I'm interested in what her and Lisa Marie think of this movie. They didn't portray any of them in a bad light. I mean, it's really hard to portray Priscilla in a bad light. She was a girl who was just kind of thrown into this crazy world because she married the most famous musician in the fucking world. I was talking to my mom about this and said, she's asked me, did they talk about this or this and that? Like, they didn't talk about, like, his extramarital affairs. They did very briefly touch upon it, but not much. And, they kind of talked about his, like, she's asked me they kind of talk about how he kind of didn't care for, apparently, Lisa or Priscilla after she had the baby. I said they definitely never talked about it. I did appreciate that this movie didn't shy upon the fact that Elvis they pretty much just flat out say he stole his music from black people, black musicians, because there's literally he's on Beale Street at one point and he hears somebody singing Hound Dog, and obviously that becomes a hit of his. And while, I mean, it's not really a less known fact that Elvis did really steal a lot of his music, but unfortunately a lot of music from black musicians, and he took a lot of his musical style from them too, obviously. And they flat out admit to it, but also at the same time they show he was a big fan of, or he was big friends with B.B. King. He liked to hang out on Beale Street when he was younger, listen to black musicians. He wasn't trying to steal from them, even though I think he pretty much did, but he did, but he definitely did not shy away from showing the influence that had on it. So I'm glad they didn't just... If this movie was made like 20 years ago, they probably would have, but no, not nowadays. So, but yeah, I really fucking liked it. I love this movie. It is very over the top, and like I said, I'm sure you can find ways that can make it shorter. And, it's a long movie. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes, but it's a fucking good movie. If you're an Elvis fan, I'm definitely sure you'll love it. I have a grandmother, I'll have to text to tell her to go watch this movie. She don't go to the movies anymore, but I'm sure I'll be on VHS or on demand here shortly, or DVD or whatever the fuck. I say VHS. I'm too damn old for this shit. But yeah, I recommend seeing Elvis. Go see it. It's a lot of fun. What's next week? Minions and Mr. Malcolm's List, which I got in the trailer one time. Oh yeah, I just wanted to say this too. As I was watching this movie, I was thinking, like, I would like to see Baz Luhrmann maybe do more colorful musicians. Maybe like Freddie Mercury. He probably could have done it if they would have gave him let him do a hard R movie about Freddie Mercury. Honestly, that probably would have worked. I was thinking to myself, even David Bowie, which is ironic because not right before the movie, I got like a lot of trailers. I don't talk about trailers anymore, but I got a trailer for like a new David Bowie documentary, which looks really fucking good. And then I also got the white. What was the fucking weird one? The White Bird. It's like a prequel sequel to Wonder. That movie, random movie for like 2018. What the fuck? Yeah, whatever. I can't believe 2017. I came out. The hell are we getting a see? It's really fucking random. It has nothing to do with the kid from the original. It has to deal with the bully that he dealt with. And like, the fuck? And it's also dealing with Nazis. What? That was the weirdest trailer I've ever got in my entire life. I did not expect that. But yeah, next week is Minions and Mr. Malcolm's List, or whatever the fuck it's called. And that's what I'll have then. Until then, I will talk to you guys later.